Hey, hi there, and welcome to this chat with Bruce Lyon. And my name is Raisa Olias, and we're having this conversation because I had this spark of wanting to know more about the cross and wanting to know more about how it came to be and how you, Bruce, created that tool. And just there's so much more that I would want to know more about. So would you first like to share some basics of how you created that soul map and what's it
Sure.
about for you?
Well, first of all, I love the fact that you have taken it to heart as something that you've been working with deeply and that you've found that useful in that journey of opening up the soul, because that's what it essentially is for me. Um, it's a way of working deeply and shamanically with the major polarities that need to be integrated and transcended in order to find the doorway to the soul. So the cross first came to me to use that way in about 1993 when I ran my first workshop, and I used the cross as a way of accessing or integrating soul energy. The cross itself is as ancient as the earth. In fact, it is the symbol for the earth in many indigenous traditions. It represents the the relationship between the earth and the sun. So the equinoxes and the solstices make a cross, and those points in the orbit of the earth around the sun. So you could say that the sun is a symbol for the soul, and it contains the body mind, which is the earth inside it. And so if you want to transcend the body mind, get the piece of the soul that has misidentified itself with our personality, if you want to open that door, then the cross is the path, and the crucifixion on the cross is the path to open the core of the heart, which allows the experience of being the soul. And so for me, the whole initiatory journey is about opening the deeper current of what it is to be human, the part of us that is incarnate here, so that we can feel ourselves as the soul. And then we can begin to love our own body mind from the perspective of the sun. And of course,
Mm.
then the next step is to step one further back into the black hole or into the monad. But for most people, the journey from earth to sun is the important one. And
Mm.
you can spend a lot of time trying to get there the slow way. And the cross provides a speeded up technology.
Mm. Thank you for that sharing and for that introduction to that. Yeah, the cross came to me through Taki'h, the Antipa Antigone, my teacher and your student. And
Mm-hmm.
it was since September 2019 that I started working with Taki'h, with the polarity of animal and the soul. And it just blew my mind. And it was just so obvious to me that this is what I want to go towards, and what I have been wanting to find and learn more about in my life, and it's been ongoing since. And uh, you mentioned the polarities, and you mentioned soul path and descending the personality, uh, and what it is to be human as a soul. There are so many things that come to me about those things that maybe we can talk more about those. Um,
Sure.
the the initiation part. What is meant by initiation to those who
Mm.
may not be aware what that is, and how it comes to be. I know that in Alice Bailey material, the teachings or the writings by Alice Bailey in esoteric astrology, it's mentioned that initiation is or initiate is initiated even before initiate is an initiate, because every initiation is self-initiation, and it's not given from the outside. And so it's beautiful to know that we can, or what I take from that is that we can choose as a soul when to take the steps forward on our path. We can make that conscious choice. And at the same time, there are these levels of initiations of stages of what I perceive or understand to be the stages of consciousness, or the level of consciousness, and that represent the depth of the union of the personality and soul, in my experience. And in the teachings, it's given that there are 5 initiations that are actually one cosmic initiation. So would you please speak more into that, what it means for a regular person on the street for their spiritual life, and how the cross fits into all that.
Well, initiation in a way is just an entering into a deeper sphere of the self. And you could say in a way that it works the other way, that who we really are is the eternal one, the cosmic Big Bang, the life that's been operating in this universe since the beginning. That's who we really are. We're really eternity. But we're wrapped in soul, and then we're wrapped in a body mind. And most people start with identifying with their personality. And the 2 of the major identifications that you have as soon as you come out of the womb is like, are you a boy or a girl? So that's one of the major, divisions that people are faced with in forming an identity. And then it's also, are you a spiritual being having a material experience, or are you a material being having a spiritual experience? And so these are the arms of the cross, basically. And you can put different things on the cross, but the division, the separation of us from source is what creates a personal identity. And Rumi says, whoever brought me here will have to take me home. So in a way, initiation is really just a path of remembering who we are and giving up our mistaken identity, and falling back into a deeper level of identity. And so that happens in stages, which are called initiations in different traditions. And initiations happen through vibration, because as soon as you are vibrating as a being at a certain depth and level, then the doors to deeper levels open. So it's a vibrational process through resonance. And initiation for most humans goes through the journey of, first of all, the mistaken identity as a body mind. I am this boy or this girl with this belief system or whatever. And then first of all, an inauthentic personality forms, which is in response to the environment. What does mom and dad want? What does society want? I will try to be what you want. And then there's the journey to create an authentic self, something that's actually coming from the core of your own being, that's authentic. So that's the first touching of the soul, is to create an authentic personality, a self that is sourced in your own being, not in the environment around you.
Right.
And then this is where the cross work comes in, because that authentic self is forged in the center of that cross, and it's a doorway into the soul. So the authentic self is the little piece of soul that managed to make it through into incarnation and stay conscious. And it's greater or smaller for different people. But if you think of the soul as your whole potential being, and the little piece of it that made it through the birth canal and drank from the river Leth and decided that you are someone, that's the first piece you have to discover. And that it becomes the doorway through the center of the cross back to the soul. And then when you've made the initiation or journey into soul, which goes through 3 stages, 3 initiations, then you are now, your identity is as the soul that has incarnated on earth, rather than the one who is the personality who maybe has a soul that you contact at high peak experiences.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you. Just just listening to you and having this conversation with you is touching me deeply, because you mentioned that it's soul initiation is basically a vibrational resonance with certain stages. And so just today I was learning about dance movement therapy and somatic movement therapy, and how the human development happens as an embryo before we have a spine, or before we have any physical form, rather. And a vibration is the first stage of that. And vibration is the stage of development that creates the space where the structure can be born into. And it was my realization today also about around the same theme, related to the soul development and soul process, that when the soul lands into the body, or from speaking from my own experience, that when I remember landing into my mother's womb as a soul, but the more I incarnated into that materialized form, I started to realize how painful my experience as a human being is going to be. And it's freaked me out. And I was like, hell no, I'm not going to come here. And I want to go back where I came from. And because of that scare, I forgot about my vibration. I forgot about the sound or the note of my soul. And because of that forgetting, I came into this incarnation with the undercurrent of fear instead of the soul note. And today was the day when I remembered that soul note. And there was that trauma healing, the different experience where I could have that soul note vibrate in my being and not feel fear about being a human being. And so that just resonates a lot, what you said about the vibrational frequency and the shamanic experience.
Well, that's in a way the core wound in a lot of work that we do in the mystery schools is resetting that original soul trauma. Like there's a lot of talk about trauma these days, but your soul trauma is the fact that you arrive as a soul to the earth and you aren't recognized. You're not sung in by conscious parents who are in touch with their soul and seen for who you are. And so most people have a sense at the core of their soul that they're not welcome here, that they don't belong here.
Right.
And then they go looking for love. They go looking for that love and that affirmation and that belonging. But of course, in a world that is hostile to the soul, you're not going to find it. Or if you do find it, you're then going to source that soul outside of you.
Right.
And so the most difficult part for everyone on the soul journey is to come back to realize, yes, you did deserve to be sung in and celebrated and welcomed as a soul. It didn't happen. It's not going to happen. So you have to welcome yourself. You have to go back in a community of other souls, feel the core of your being, decide, the second coming is basically you deciding that you are welcome here, that you belong here, and that you have a right to unfold your gifts as a soul without getting permission and acceptance and blessing from anything outside you. And so that's what's changing the planet, as souls
Right.
are self-initiating and
Right.
claiming their right to be here and healing that core wound and vibrating the note that they came
Right.
to vibrate.
Right. And you mentioned soul trauma. So trauma is something that is too overwhelming to deal with at a time, in
Mm-hmm.
my definition, or the understanding of the definition of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And trauma is the consequence, how or what limits the life force or the love flowing through you. And so
Mm-hmm.
um, and it also creates separation and fragmentation. And so what the cross has meant for me is the same way we do that on the personality level, that we bring back to wholeness those fragmented parts of our personality to integrate, so that we can be more whole and more
Mm-hmm.
solid as a personality. We do that same work as on the soul level with the cross. And it seems like there are as many possibilities for soul to experience trauma than there is for the personality, for different parts of the soul to be brought back home. And it's dependent on the individual journey and individual soul history, that what is the relevant pieces that need to be brought back into wholeness in this lifetime.
Sure. Is
And
that, I mean, it's
yeah.
true that there's an individual journey, but there's also a collective journey. Because if you look at the cross globally, you would say that, if you take the masculine and feminine as the left and right arms
Right.
of the cross, or left and right politics, or all of the left and rights, the ongoing immature battle between these polarities to try to have one win over the other, to try to have the left battle the right in politics, or the gender wars, or the all of the stuff of people about transcending their gender. That's all an attempt for us globally to try to get off the polarity of that cross. And of course, the other great polarity is between North and South. And we have a strong bias in the world towards the North. Like most of the traditions really honor the North, whether it's the crown center of the head, over the base. So we're struggling as a globe to try to integrate north, south, east, west in order to come to that central point and discover that we are the one crucified on that cross, not the cross itself. We're not stuck in one arm or one dimension of the cross, that we are all of those. And it's that freedom that allows the door to the soul to open. So there's an individual process as each person has found their own identity, on a particular arm of the cross. But then there's a global collective process as humanity itself undergoes this conflict, tension between polarities in an attempt to get off the cross.
Beautiful. And yeah, it's also a collective journey, that I actually wanted to be more, or would love to elaborate on more. That I understand that the different parts of the cross are representing archetypal energies, and as such, they're universal. So they are accessible to everyone. They're energies that are potentially available and also manifesting through each individual, or everyone on the earth. And also, as such, each individual can be contributing to the collective work through doing their archetypal work individually. And at the same time, I see that there's also this collective level in terms of humanity as a one living organism, and that organism making choices as one being. And so would you please elaborate more on that difference, um, or speak more into that? What is the difference between an individual that is part of the collective doing the individual work on behalf of the collective, and then the one entity as one being doing the work?
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, we are both, and the soul is much more connected to the field that we're all part of, and the personality is more connected to the individual experience. So, yeah, there's also a collective process that is fractally expressed in the individual. So we're all cells in this greater organism, and that also creates another polarity, because there are some people who want the collective to dominate the individual, and there are some that want the individual to dominate the collective. And we have great systems of totalitarianism and democracy and all of these things that try to enshrine one side over the other, or make one more important than the other. But of course, it's the dynamic tension between them. We are individuals and we are part of a collective. And the relationship between individuals is not just about the individuals. The relationship between individuals is an expression of the greater whole, trying to organize the individuals according to some deeper mystery. And so that is exactly the same process that happens inside the individual when we're caught in the polarity between masculine and feminine, or spirit and matter. There's a deeper part of us, the soul, that's trying to integrate these dualities and bring our identity back home. And you could say there's a world soul as well that's trying to help humanity integrate not only its own polarities so that it comes off this battle between left, right, and north and south, but also integrate humanity with the other kingdoms of nature, like the animals and the plants and the rocks and the minerals, because they're part of one greater whole. And so there's also another polarity between humans, who see themselves as, the kind of the dominant species on Earth, and all of the other species that are part of the collective soul of the world.
Beautiful. And I know I have my own idea or experience what it means to get off the cross and be crucified in the middle. But what does it mean to you? How do you perceive it? What do you mean by that?
Well, I think the doorway is to go through all of the polarities. And so in the Christian tradition, the crucifixion is basically the recognition that each of us is a son of God, goddess. Each of us is a soul. Each of us has been crucified on the cross of the world, and we have mistaken ourselves for our individual selves, and being a man or a woman, being spiritual, material, or whatever. So being off the cross means to undergo the tension of coming back to the center, and refusing to have your hands tied and your feet and so on tied, means that you are no longer able to shift your identity to being one thing as opposed to another thing. And so that requires that you hold the tension of sitting in the middle. And really the thing that you are in the middle is love. Because love is the marriage ceremony at every wedding. Love is what brings all polarities together. So when you're stuck in a war between the polarities, then what you need is love. And love is found at the center of the cross. And so even in the Christian tradition, Jesus didn't say, just sit back and I've done it all for you. He's like, pick up your cross and follow me. Like you actually have your own cross. You have to do the work to get yourself off the cross. You can't just wait for a savior to come. And so the whole emergence of the world soul is person by person, the picking up your own cross
Right.
figuring out where you're stuck between the polarities, allowing yourself to rest in the center as love, and use your will to stay in love for long enough at the center for more and more of the polarities to come in and fuse in your core. And then you'll pop off the cross and realize, oh, I'm actually love. I'm the soul incarnate.
Right.
And I have a personality that was formed in a particular way because of the wound of not belonging or not feeling that I mattered. I created a personality. Now I can use that personality to express the love that I am in the world. So there is a journey, and that journey is a journey of suffering, but also joy. There's ecstasy at the core of the cross as well as agony. The agony is just there because it's so tempting in the world, and the world is doing it right now, to choose a side. People want you to like be for Trump or not, or be this or be that. It's like, whose side are you on? What choice are you going to make? That splits humans. And then the center is often seen as like wishy-washy, and that love is seen as not powerful. It's like, choose a side, be someone, make a stand. But
Right.
actually love makes a different kind of stand. It says, I'm standing for a principle of love that is not to be found in any of the polarities. It's
Right.
found in the center and beyond the cross altogether. It's like it comes through the core of the cross and sets up residence there, but it doesn't belong on the cross. It's transcendent to the cross. So that's the pathway through the core of each person's heart and soul to make a stand for love and to follow that journey of love through the center of the cross to their own liberation.
Wow. Liberation and freedom. Yeah. That's the first thing that when I ask myself what I'm here for, what am I here for? It's for that. It's for freedom and liberation. And when you speak about that, it sounds very simple. It may not be very easy, but it sounds very simple.
Yeah.
And
It
yeah,
is
yeah,
simple. It's not easy. I mean, in a way, that was the 11th commandment, right? Love one another. And that seems a very simple rule, but it's very difficult in expression because we have
right.
to wrestle against all of the parts of us that aren't loving and that have not yet known love. And we have to face our core abandonment wound of being separate from source.
And facing the core abandonment means feeling, surrendering to it, and going through it instead of just looking at it or bypassing it or avoiding it in different ways.
Yeah, I would say most people are still trying to avoid that terrible feeling at the center of the heart, which
Right.
is, I would say the closest word for it is bereft. To feel bereft. It's a deep cry from the core of the heart, of like, if I am love and if I am the soul, why do I feel so separate? And it's the cry that takes people into suicide sometimes. It's the cry that takes people on all kinds of addictions. It's the cry of Christ on the cross, why hast thou abandoned me? It's a feeling of abandonment
Right.
from love itself. And most of the addictions people have is to go look to ease that core wound by filling it with something from the world. It could be a relationship, it could be fame, it could be something that is outside of us that is going to fill
Right.
that wound, but nothing ever does, or only temporarily. And the pathway to liberation lies through the very center of that core. And sometimes that happens to us. It's called the dark night of the soul. Something collapses in our world, or a relationship ends, or something is that we've invested everything in collapses, and we're driven into that core. And it's very holy ground to support someone not just to go and bounce off that core, but to go through it and to find that it's a portal to their own liberation, and it's a doorway to love itself. But it's not a path that our world promotes people to take. It's a path that most people avoid.
Right. I would like to go back to the roots of the cross. Uh, I've been studying human development, and I'm very curious about the psychological basis of the cross. Because what I came across with was Jungian psychology and Carl Jung's classification of archetypal energies or archetypes, and there were some things that I found that were resonating with that modeling or model that he created, and I was wondering if that was something that you drew inspiration from when you were creating that map for the cross, or how do you see the psychological theory behind that?
Mm. Yeah, well, just about all traditions, when you go deeply enough to them, have some reference to them, and particularly if you're looking for in the psychological ones. And Jung has some beautiful work in the relationship between the unconscious and the conscious. And if you take the cross and also have an arm through the center, you end up with the 6 arms, which makes an octahedron, which is used in many different traditions as the jewel in the lotus, or the archetypal expression of the self, or in Jungian terminology would be to individuate your own soul. And he would have the divine child at the center, or the Christ principle, and the different archetypes around it. But also, if you go to just geometry, you have a tetrahedron, which then is the central platonic solid that then becomes an octahedron, that then becomes, and so on. So the structure of the psyche is built on geometry. And it also relates to cosmos, as above, so below, the structure of the earth, all of the ancient temples in stone, that are aligned with the equinoxes and solstices, that part of the geometry of the relationship between the earth and the sun. So whenever you go into the human psyche, you have an external expression, which is the environment around us and the cosmos, and you have an internal expression. So, and relating the two of them, relating what's going on in the subjective world with the objective world, is the journey of soul reclamation. And it does change. So, for example, as soon as you get off the earth, east and west and north and south don't make so much sense on the sun. Like, where is east on the sun? You have to reorientate yourself to, well, what would be the North Pole or the South Pole of the sun? And so we are held within geometry and resonance and the music of cosmos. And so our psyches respond to that music. And when you are trying to create an ordering symbol for the psyche, Jung used a mandala, and it's also used in many different traditions, because it centers the psyche and allows it to start to integrate itself as the center of awareness. And then out of that becomes an individuation of the human soul. So I would say anyone who does deep archetypal work is going into the realm of the soul. And there's been beautiful contributions by Jung and many others. And they would all have some version of the cross, or the octahedron, or the tetrahedron, or the eye in the triangle, or all of these are just geometry, and then we layer meaning over it.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I think I need to digest that for the geometry part. It's still mind blowing to me to see how ingenious the creation is with the very detailed and meticulous organization of different parts working together. And as you said, it's the music of cosmos. And so,
and many people don't understand that we're living in that music, that even the days of the week and our time and everything that we think of, that we of being in time and space, is really a reflection of the music around us. Like the days of the week have got to do with the planets and the rotation around the sun and their orbital relationships with each other. It's all music.
right,
And we live embedded in that music. And you could
right,
say that one of the things the cross does is it helps us wake up to the music that lives
right.
at the core,
Mm.
and come in harmony with it again.
Mm. I do have to admit that before starting to work with the cross, I did not sense so much the outer world or the cosmos or the archetypal energies of the planets or um, any of the astrological meanings or cosmological meanings of the different energies or entities that the different parts of the cosmos represent. But the deeper I do, or the deeper I dive into the archetypal work, the more sensitive I become to those um, relations that these different parts in the cosmos have, and how I am in relationship to them, and how they all play a part in through this single point of time and space. And sometimes I wonder, am I going crazy, or just or is it just that the cosmos is that I'm becoming more aware of the things around me that are already happening. And so what you said
Well,
just
that's an
makes me
interesting question, because in a way, what crazy is having too much input, not being able to process it all. And one of the reasons that the psyche does close down is because until we have a stable center, it's
right,
hard to have all of the channels open, because you're
right,
listening to the music of the spheres while you're trying to pay your taxes. Sometimes doesn't work. And
right,
many people become ungrounded in opening too many different channels, which is
right,
why the cross work for me, its critical difference between so many other practices is that includes somatic.
right,
So the psyche has these ordering principles, and you can work with archetypal psychology and so on to integrate your psyche.
mm,
But unless you're involving the soma, unless you're involving the body and the wisdom of the body, and this is the north-south polarity, unless you're putting the body in motion, unless you're allowing the soul to well up through the somatics as
right,
well as just through consciousness, then the tendency can be to become ungrounded, that
right,
the soul is transcendent to the body mind, but it
right,
isn't immanent. And that's
right,
why it's so important to do the left and the right hand path, or the path of ascension through the crown center, but the path of descension through the base, and to include that in the way we do cross work, that it isn't just a mental consciousness, it's a movement of energy. And so sometimes when you sit on an arm of the cross and you're allowing the energy to move through you, it comes through cathartically to reveal things that you would never have thought of, because your
mm,
body is part of the process and it's involved in the process, and its
mm,
wisdom is recognized. So you could
mm,
say that the the north-south split on the planet is really between the colonial consciousness and the indigenous wisdom of the body. And we've still got a long way to go to truly give equality. We've done a lot of work on equality between masculine and feminine. It's still in process, but we've done a lot of work on that. We haven't done so much work on deeply integrating psyche and soma, the
Right.
the northern consciousness and the southern wisdom of the body, and integrating them so that then you can hold the vastness of your connection to the whole in a way that's grounded and earthed and vibrating in the body, rather than over vibrating the consciousness
Right.
and resulting in disassociation from connection with form.
Right. So it's because of the ungroundedness and the dissociation that it may feel or seem like it's fragmented. So it's not complete. It's not a whole, one whole.
Yeah,
And
it's not
yeah,
informed. It hasn't been
right,
informed yet. Yeah.
right. And do you see? You were talking about soma and psyche, and so basically, I understand that in terms of the cross, the soul and the body polarity. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what do you see or how do you see the role of the personality? Is it part of the soma, or is it another vehicle for the soul to be integrated so that the groundedness can happen? Or how do you see the role of the personality in this?
Well, like I said, there's two personalities. There's your inauthentic one, which is basically embedded in pleasing your environment or responding to your environment in such a way that you can survive.
Right.
And then there's your authentic personality, which is a piece of the soul that it has expressed, but is still on the cross. It's still caught on the cross. And one of the ways of freeing it or recognizing it that is free is to look at the fact that our earth, which is the equivalent of the body mind, is sitting within the heliosphere of the sun. So the illusion is that the sun goes down every day and gets up every morning, but basically that's just the earth spinning, and the earth is never not inside the heliosphere. It's always surrounded by the sun. And the same in our body mind, that while we may feel the sun's in this direction above the head, it's also beneath our base. And what kundalini is, what the energy of the soul rising up through matter, and deeper than that, spirit rising through matter, is just the energy of the soul that surrounds us, coming up through the body as much as it comes down through the crown.
Right.
So when you know that, then you can allow that process of integration of soul energy that's moving through the body mind, and then you can step back from your persona. And the word persona means to sound through. And so the soul is supposed to sound through the body mind, not become identified with it. So that requires, a release of your identity as your beliefs, as your emotions, as your particular gender that you're incarnated in, all of those things, so that you can rest as the love that is transcending and sounding through your personality. So your personality is something that the soul creates and then is able to utilize as an expression on earth.
Wow.
And you could say that the primary purpose of the cross as technology is created to support people to become free of identifying with their personality, so that can be the soul and then sound through it.
Beautiful, really beautiful. It's like is the word sift in English, so that just travels through it and doesn't get attached to it. Yeah, it's beautiful. What comes to me now is that when you speak about the authentic self and distinguishing the authentic self from the personality or the self that wants to please the surroundings or the environment. What I learned from Taki'h and what has been beneficial to me is shadow work, to integrate or discover what the inauthentic self is hiding hence finding the authentic expression of myself. So I wonder if this shadow work was added by Taki'h, or was it originally already part of your creation, as integral part of the cross? Or how do you see the role of the shadow work in this?
Well, shadow work is an intrinsic part of the cross, because if you are stuck on any one of the polarities, then the shadow is the unexpressed energy of the other one. And so in a way, as soon as you have an identity, as soon as you have an I, it casts a shadow. And the doorway through the center of the cross is the release of the attachment to the I of the personality, so that the I of the soul can open. And that can't open as long as there is shadow operating in the realm of personality. So it's an integral part. And you could say that how an inauthentic personality is formed is because the piece of the soul, you as a soul that's arrived, does not feel safe or welcome or wanted. And so it adapts itself to what's wanted from it. And so that's what creates the inauthentic part. And so the energy of your authentic self goes unexpressed, and it goes into the shadow. So the shadow work reclaims that energy. And then there's one more step. Like once you're able to be an authentic self, and I'd have to say that authentic selves on the planet are still, reasonably rare. So they're not like, it's not like everybody's got an authentic self and expression. So a lot of the psychological work on the planet is to help people discover their authentic self. But then the authentic self is kind of like the last jumping off place, because your authentic self is a piece of the soul, but it isn't the soul itself. And the way you can tell the difference is the authentic self still is at the center of its universe. It's an authentic self. It's true to some aspect of its soul, but it puts itself at the center, and it wants to make a contribution. It wants to express itself. It has concentric rings going out, but it's the center of the universe. When somebody has made the journey into the soul, love is at the center.
Right.
Not love at the core of their personal self, but love. And so the soul, free of the personality, can look out and see their authentic self and everybody else's authentic self, and sees them all from the perspective of love, and relates yourself with other selves in ways that is loving. But it doesn't place you at the center of the universe, because the soul has got free from that, anchor point, which is the authentic personality. And so there's two major journeys that people make psychologically, to come through the door of initiation. The first is to do their shadow work, let their inauthentic self be restored to the authentic self, the original impulse of who you were before you adjusted yourself to fit into the world. And then go through the door of the authentic self, go through its core into the soul, which is just a little expression of in the center of the cross of everyone's body mind.
Oh, beautiful distinction. Yeah. That actually clarified a lot of things for me personally. So thank you so much for that. Yeah, the how I've seen it in the past has been through the tools of psychology, through the work of transactional analysis, psychoanalysis, that when something, some qualities or feelings or emotions or thoughts or behaviors that have been hidden or rejected when growing up, that when they are discovered, that's the authentic expression of the personality that has been hidden, and that actually was originally there before those layers came on. And to me, I have still been tasting whether that is soul or just an expression of soul, or if that is still the personality, the self, and not the self, like you said, that it's part of the soul, but it's not love. Uh, and to and the question has been for me, what is the difference between uh, love as a soul, or soul as love, and then the part of the soul as the authentic self that is not identified as
Yeah.
the personality. Yeah.
Well,
Thank
those are
you.
important distinctions. And, I also want to say that not every authentic impulse is coming from the soul. So, for example, we have millions of years of animal evolution. And so our animals are authentic in their expression. And a lot of what we would call the authentic personality has got to do with not overriding our natural impulses. So
Right.
it's healthy for a 3-year-old to cry. And if it's stifled, that now that urge to express emotionally is inauthentic. Now,
Right.
that's not the soul, because it's part of the authentic expression of the personality, of the emotional body of the personality, the part of us that has appetites, the part of us that so these are all authentic, but they are authentic personality. They're part of the personality vehicles, your mind, your
Right.
emotions,
Right.
and your
Right.
body,
Right.
and your eros. And so repressing from an idea of yourself, of who you want to be and how you want to be, controlling and repressing the authentic expressions of your soma, of your body mind,
Right.
are also part of developing an authentic personality. But I would say when authentic personality is integrated with soul, now the love aspect of the soul integrates all of those authentic voices, whether it's your body's desire for food or sex, and your emotional desire for self-validation, and your mental desire to understand, that the soul integrates them. So those authentic expressions are rooted in the love of the soul. So the soul
Right.
has infused
Right.
those authentic expressions, and so much of inauthentic personality is a control or a domination of all of those
Right.
impulses which are authentic, in order to present a kind of controlled persona to the world. So yeah,
Right.
I think it's important distinction that you're making between there are authentic expressions of the personality as well as authentic expressions of the soul.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah. Wow. I'm just so excited, and I'm trying not to scream too much because I'm staying at my friend's house who has children sleeping right now because it's midnight in Finnish time. So
So there you are. You have an authentic desire for expression,
right, right,
and you are managing it out of love, which is the soul. You're not managing it because you don't want to upset someone's feelings. You're making a loving integration of your authentic expression of your personality.
right. Oh, beautiful. Um, yeah, it's so nourishing to have this conversation with you. I noticed that when I was thinking about what I wanted to ask you, they were very technical questions. I see, and I love what kind of a direction this conversation has taken, and I can feel more expansion, and I can feel more landing and knowing that all is well. So, and that the tool that you've created is it is so beautiful because it's so versatile, and it applies, or let's say that anybody can apply that uh, the way that supports their own soul growth and their own soul integration. And it may look a bit different from the way that I do it, or the way that Taki'h did it, or the way that you do it, but that the the core of the teaching that you created is still there, and the transmissions that come through is just it's priceless. So I want to thank you for giving that offering to the world. I'm sure I'm not the only one that benefited from that.
It's sure, and in the world of technology, the things that are really important are the way technology is applied. But even deeper than that, it's a question of where technology is created from. So in other words, if technology is created from a desire to exploit or to make money or to for fame, or the motives that go into technology are embedded in it, just like when we cook food. And then technology can be applied in so many different ways. And this is such an important question for humanity right now, as we enter the Aquarian age, and technology is so powerful, and it's going to have such a powerful effect on people's lives. So understanding that the whole point of the technology of the cross has love at its center, and the desire for human freedom, for the desire for people to find the fastest way they can through the core of their own being into the soul that they are, and into the freeing of that soul from its misidentification with their body mind. So if that's the purpose of the technology, it's like music in the technology. It's singing at the heart of the technology. It's not about learning the technology. It's about listening to that sound and having that sound resonate with the core of the soul and the person. So they've found like, oh, this is a river that I can swim up to my own freedom. And then the thing also is how you apply the technology, and how people use that, and why they're doing that. Why are they using that technology? And if they're aligned with the energy it's created from, which is the desire in their own heart for the hearts of others to be free, then the application of that technology will be liberating to others. Because the big danger with all technology and with the soul is that if it makes us reliant on something outside of us, then it disempowers us. But if it points us to the resources at the center of our own being that lie unrecognized and unacknowledged, and encourages us to pick them up and operate them, then it's empowering. And so my longing for the cross work is for it to continue to help orient people to the core of their own being, and find the priceless resource, the pearl beyond price that lives there of the human soul, and to trust it and be guided by it and be initiated by it into their inherent love and freedom.
Beautiful. And it takes integrity. It takes a lot of integrity and slowing down to listen to that point where from to apply the technology that you or anybody else has created. So it's not just about copying terms or the definitions or anything like that, but it's about, like you said, vibrate. It comes back to that vibration and sounding and just being your own judge, whether you're integrity with that or not, whether you're, like you said, doing it for the money or having that intention of liberating others or something else.
And that's the transmission. That's the transmission, isn't it? It's like staying within the river. And what I really appreciate about what you're doing is that you have found this tool, this technology, this offering to be of useful use in your own journey, and you're wanting other people to have it. You're wanting other people to have the same experience of liberation that you had, and applying it. And that's a soul longing, because the soul is deeply connected to all other people. And every time one soul gets free, we all sing our songs with a little more joy. So I love the fact that you have taken it upon yourself to offer a path of love and freedom to others.
Thank you for saying that.
Mm.
And I must admit that the personal self is struggling with finding the individual note of how to apply that technology so that it is not a copy of Taki'h's work or not a copy of your work. And that's what I've been doing exactly. That's the listening that I've been doing. That when am I sounding the note that is coming from me rather than just repeating something that I learned from Taki'h or from you or from somebody else for that matter. And just really happy that it's a process and it's ongoing. And I keep growing with that, and I keep discovering the deeper layers of the transmissions of the different archetypes that are on the cross. And I celebrate the fact that through this listening of where I'm coming from, it's also developing those archetypal aspects within myself. It's already doing the work. And it's so exhilarating to notice, oh my God, okay, it's not about the exercises as such, but it's just me living this through.
Yeah, it's like your soul is like the alchemical cauldron that you're putting these things in. So you're honoring the pieces that have come from me or Taki'h or TA or whatever, but you're trusting your soul to melt them all together into the furnace of your own being and express them anew in a way that's a transmission that's been colored by you in the same way that all of our bodies are made of atoms that were forged in supernovas. We're all recycled universe authentically expressing itself. So you're doing your version of that.
Right. And I remember Taki saying that each of us are like unique radio stations, and we're transmitting the different note of that of one song, and it's, even though it may seem that we're singing the same song, but it's not the same song. It's a different vibration that I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember the exact words. But still, the point is that even though it may seem that we're doing the same thing, but it's totally not, because it's coming through the unique expression of each of us. So it has a unique flavor to it. So that's why it's so it creates it's enriching is that even a word, but it's making it more rich, more abundant, in flavors, in nuances, in the manifestations of those different archetypes.
Well, may your own unique soul shine flow out into the world and touch many beings and hearts, and may you enjoy the process of your own burning.
Thank you. I think this would be a beautiful time to end this conversation. I really appreciate you for taking this time. I know that you're in the middle of the temple training at Hidden Temple, and it's I can imagine that it's another container that is alive and demanding your attention, and so taking this time, I really appreciate that. And for the people watching this recording, I really hope that you have been able to receive or get the taste of the cross, what it's about, to have the inspiration to whatever way or through whoever, to go deeper into this work and to spark the soul within yourself.
So do you have some way that people could access more information about it, or access you, or like if somebody is inspired to follow through some more, what are you doing that they could connect with?
Well, I have a business called Aquarian Avatar. I run these online workshops or courses called Dance and Dig, and they are courses, or it's a Dance and Dig is a course based on dance movement therapy that is explicitly focusing on exploring those archetypes through embodiment and connecting the mind-body connection, or deepening the mind-body connection, the psyche and soma, so that those archetypes can be more deeply and more groundedly integrated. I also offer the cross workshops in Finnish in Finland that are 1 day long or 1 evening long. But then I let's see what is coming in the future. I know that there has been a lightning strike to offer a 6-month journey on the polarity of the animal and the soul. That did not happen last winter, but let's see if it will happen sometime in the future. There's a bunch of material that Taki'h has created on the cross on YouTube, on her channel, Remember Yourself by Taki'h by Taki'h. And
well, maybe you could, if you're putting this video out there, you could put it in the comments or something. You could put links so people who are interested
I'll put the links, so people can find them. And obviously, the offerings through you. Are you still offering the Call to Temple online course?
Yeah, most people could. If they want to connect with me, they could connect with my website or with Hidden Temple.
Right.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
All right.
Thank you so much.
See you later.
Bye. Okay, bye.